Hello everyone. We are now on the sample problems for Module 2. Again, everyone's welcome here and we welcome your feedback. If ever you have noticed some things to be um, corrected or maybe improved, as this is the first version of this soon to be textbook. Right, so we'd be glad to hear some feedback from you. Let us know in the comment section, or you can contact us if you have something to say about our sample problems. Okay, these are all self-made with the help of some textbook references and some online sources, and of course with the help of AI. Right? So now for module 2, our sample problems are focused on statistical intervals and hypothesis testing. We had a discussion on that. Um, okay, kindly see our videos regarding the terminologies. Okay, so just like in the previous one, we're going to focus only three of these sample problems. Right? Just like in this one, we're going to start with 2.16. Um, Okay, it says a manufacturer claims that the modulation index, alright, so modulation index of a frequency modulator follows an average of 2.5, and a sample of 30 modulation indices is recorded to test at 90%, 95%, and 99% confidence levels, whether the mean modulation index is greater than 2.5. Okay, so in hypothesis testing, we are usually starting with, of course, understanding the problem. Okay, the problem statement. So we try to understand this so that we can determine the the claim. Okay, or the claim is usually our um what do you call it? Alternative hypothesis. Okay, so um we have this portion of the last sentence, whether the mean modulation index is greater than 2.5, right? Actually, it was also mentioned in the first sentence. So we have the claim um follows an average of 2.5. So the claim is this one, and that's why our alternative hypothesis is something like this. Okay, so we are claiming that it is greater than 2.5. Okay, so that would be our alternative hypothesis, and that means we, okay, it's greater than 2.5. And then the opposite of greater is either less than or equal. So, right, so that's for our null hypothesis. We denote that as HO, while the alternative hypothesis, we denote that as HA. So let me read this. Says that the sample mean is greater than 2.5, while this one, the sample mean is either less than or equal to 2.5. Okay, so that's the first step. By the way, we have our data set here. So this we're going to use this for our computation. Right. Now, we have the mean and standard deviation. Of course, you just add all these numbers together and divide by 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So, uh, okay, 30, correct. So, divide by 30. So, 76.4 is the sum of all these numbers. You can double check that. Um, and then 76.4 divided by 30. So, the mean is 2.55. Okay, so although I remove the entire process, if you compute for the standard deviation, we end up with this one. Okay, you can check our previous video of sample problems for module 1 to find out how do we compute for the standard deviation. Okay, so you can try also using given these values, compute for the standard deviation, and most likely you'll end up getting this value, right? So just in case you wonder why we have a -1, unlike what we had in the sample problems for module 1. Remember, this time we are talking about samples. Okay, so it is a sample. All right, so that means we're going to use the formula for the sample standard deviation, which is almost the same with the population standard deviation, except for the minus 1. Okay, population standard deviation has no minus 1. Okay, so if you compute this, we end up with this standard deviation. And again, the best practice is to have at least 4 decimal places when it comes to standard deviation. Okay, now that we have that, the next step would be to look for the test statistic. We determine the critical value or maybe the p-value if you want, and then we decide out of it, right? So the formula for by the way, this is a um, one sample t-test, although we can actually use z-test in this case. Okay, z-test will be easier, but in this case, to be more sure, okay, because z-test is usually used for higher. The minimum is 30. So although we have 30, we have reached that minimum assumption or minimum estimated value, rough estimate value. Uh, we also have the option to use t-test instead. By the way, the difference is z-test is you only need the alpha to determine the critical values. But in t-test, you need um, the alpha and the degrees of freedom, which is derived from the sample size. Okay, so it's a longer process, or there are many possible critical values compared to z-test, which is quite fixed. Okay, that's in z-test, the critical values are regardless of the sample size. Okay, while in t-test, there's a set of critical values for each sample size. Okay, meaning if the critical values for a sample with a size of 25 is different from the one which has almost the same values, but uh, the one has that other one has 24 sample size only. Okay, so their respective critical values will be different from each other, right? So in this case, although again you can use z-test, but in this case we chose to use t-test instead, right? So this is a one sample t-test because as you can see there is an inequality involved in our hypothesis. Okay, and if you look at the problem statement, there's the word greater. Okay, greater than. So we are talking about inequality, so that would be a one sample t-test. Right? So now once we have our standard deviation, we can use that. Our mean and standard deviation, we use that for computing for our test statistic, which is in this case we have the t-score, since we are using a t-test or conducting a t-test. So for the formula of the test statistic, we need the sample mean, the population mean, the sample standard deviation, and the sample size. Right? So the sample mean is 2.55. That was computed from here. And then population mean, that's the one being referenced to in our problem statement. Okay? So 2.5, that's our known mean. Okay? I mean known population mean. Known or population mean. Right? Oh no. Let me correct. 180. Right. So now let's go back here. So we have this sample mean and then the given population mean. And then we computed for the sample standard deviation and then divide by the square root of the sample size, which is 30. So direct substitution only, and we end up with 1.61 as our test statistic, right? Now we don't have the t table here, t distribution table, or we can calculate um, the the equivalent or the corresponding critical values. But let's just remember that for a one-tailed t-test at 90%, the alpha is 0.1. Okay? And since we have a sample size of 30, our degrees of freedom is 29. Okay? And that will correspond to a critical value of 13.1. So there are three main ways to derive this one. First one is using a t-distribution table, which we are not going to discuss here. The second one is using your calculator. And the third one, or if you want using Google, you can, or AI. Okay, that could be the second option. And the third option is using manually, calculate it using calculus. Right, so those are three options you may uh, um, try. Okay, but in for the sake of discussion, usually this is given in the problem statement. For the sake of discussion, at 90% confidence level or 0.1 significance level, the degrees of freedom and the degrees of freedom of 29, the corresponding critical value is 1.311, right? So now we are going to compare our test statistic, which is 1.61, with the critical values derived. So um, let me sketch. Okay, if assuming this is a normal distribution, right? I'll try better. Okay, assuming this is a normal distribution, we actually have our right-tailed test. So we are actually conducting a right-tailed test. So this portion is what we call as the critical region or the rejection region. So it actually goes on forever, okay, although approaching zero. The height is approaching zero. Right? So this portion is our critical region. And if our test statistic falls within this region, then we reject the null hypothesis. Right? So we have here the critical value is 1.311. So this is 1.31. Sorry. 31. Okay, so this is 1.31. And our test statistic is 1.61. So, by the way, take note, this one is 0. The middle portion of our normal distribution is 0. And the right side, of course, right side are positive. Okay, sorry for my horrible drawing. And the left side are negative values. Okay, so that means 1.61, our test statistic, is right after this portion. So 1.61 more likely will be around here. So 1.61. Okay, so we have this 1.61. So it falls within the critical or the rejection region. That's why we reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so as you can see, it's greater than 1.31. So it has reached our critical region. So we reject the null hypothesis. So um, let's have the conclusion later. We are asked actually to do this for three confidence levels. Okay, 90, 95, and 99. So we're done with the 90. Now we have the 90, 5. Okay, for the 95 one-tail t-test, we have the significance level of 0.05 and the same degrees of freedom, 28, but the corresponding critical value is now 1.699. So the test statistic is still the same, but this time we are comparing it with a new critical level. So it's no longer 1.31, instead 1.699. So I'm not going to draw anymore. So if this is 1.699. 1.61 is actually right before this part. Okay? Meaning, since it is less than 1.699, we do not reject. We fail to reject our null hypothesis. Okay? And actually, same thing with the 99% confidence level, since it has an alpha of 0.01, and then we're using the same degrees of freedom, the corresponding critical value is now 2.462. So imagine if this is 2.462, 1.61 falls before here. Okay? So, all in all, for 90%, we reject. For 95 and 99, both, we do not reject null hypothesis. So now with the conclusion, 90% is not ideal actually, as our null hypothesis could lead to a higher risk of type 1 error, also known as the false alarm, and which means unnecessary FM system adjustments. So 90% is nice. However, there's a tendency of committing type 1 errors, or there's a chance of having false alarms. On the other hand, 99% is too conservative, increasing the risk of type 2 error, meaning we may fail to detect real signal improvements. Okay, so if 90% is too much, okay, we make unnecessary adjustments. For 99%, there are significant improvements, but we don't detect them. Okay, so um, to compromise, no, to balance the tendencies between type 1, committing type 1 and type 2 errors, we usually settle with the middle type of confidence level, or middle um, common value of confidence levels. So we have 95%. Most balanced choice, as it minimized both type 1 and type 2 errors, meaning we still have a reasonable chance of detecting a real improvement in modulation index. So this is not just for this specific problem. In most cases, the default is 95% confidence level, which corresponds to 0.05 significance level, or alpha. Okay, so that's the default. If it's not given in the problem, we assume alpha to be 0.05, which means we have a 95% confidence in our computation. Okay, thus, at 95% confidence level, we do not have strong enough statistical evidence to conclude that the true mean modulation index is greater than 2.5. So how come? Remember that our null hypothesis has been at 95, we do not reject, meaning we accept our null hypothesis, this one. Okay? So meaning we are saying this is true. So if this is true, then the alternative is false. So we do not have significant proof that the sample mean is greater than the population mean, which is 2.5. Okay, so the sample mean, or the true mean modulation index, is greater than 2.5. Okay, we do not have strong enough statistical evidence to prove that. Okay, right. So, okay, I guess that would be all for this example. Let us know in the comments if you need more elaboration on this, or there are some correction that you'd like to um, bring up. Right. Next example we have here, it says a researcher is comparing the voltage gain of two different transistors. We have uh, option A, which has a sample size of 40, okay, 40 amplifiers, mean gain of 52, and a standard deviation of 35 or 3.5. Right? So, by the way, voltage gain is unitless. So we don't have a unit for our mean and our standard deviation. Meanwhile, option B has a sample of 35 amplifiers, mean gain of 50.8, and standard deviation of 3.2. And now we are specifically using the 95% confidence level because of the presence of our alpha, zero point zero 0.05. So we are going to conduct a test to determine if option A has a significantly higher gain than option B. So we're going to check also if there is any significant difference in gain between these two options. Okay. So for the first one, let me correct. For the first, okay, I'll check. Right, we're still recording. Right, for the first option, we now state the hypothesis here, the null and the alternative. So, we can derive actually the null and the alternative hypothesis from here. So here we are saying option A, meaning the sample mean of A is significantly higher than the sample mean of B. Sample uh, gain of A is greater than the sample mean of B, sample gain of B, right? So XA is greater than XB. And the opposite of that is just less than or equal, right? So not opposite, the complement, right? That's the correct word, complement. Now step two, we derive the statistic and then the critical values so that we can decide. So why do we use z-test? Because we are now sure we have enough sample size. We have 40 and 35. So it's now safe to use z-test. Although we are still assuming, since we are not conducting a normal or normality test of our sample data, we are just assuming the data set is normal. Okay, so remember when we use z-test, we are assuming our data set is normal, right? Now, we use this formula. We just take the difference between the means, sample means, and by the way, this is a two sample z-test because as state in the problem, we have sample A and sample B. Okay, so we have two samples. So this is a two sample z-test. And for the first one, we are conducting actually a one-tailed test because, again, of the presence of the inequality. Okay, so first we are checking, or we just get the difference between the means and then substitute the standard deviation and then the sample size here. So they are all given in the sample problems, right? And then compute. So that will be 1.55. Right? Now, critical value for a one-tailed test, again, using your calculator, using Google or AI, or using your Z-table if you want, or manually computing using calculus, we can derive the critical value as 1.645. Okay, and that is for alpha. Alpha equals to 0.05, and this is now regardless of our sample size. Okay, so therefore, meaning you can just memorize this for a one-tailed uh, z-test. Okay, one-tailed z-test, the default critical value is 1.645. Okay. Now, to decide, we just like what we did earlier, um, our critical value is 1.645, and since we are talking about greater than, so it should not exceed with this one should not exceed to this limit, right? So, um, again, if our okay, let me draw. If this is our the middle of um our normal distribution, okay, that's 0. And right here is our critical value, 1.645. Then 1.5 is somewhere right here. Okay, so let's try to straighten this. No. No. Okay, so 1.55 is right here, somewhere right here. Okay, right before 1.645. So therefore, it does not fall outside, or it does not fall within the critical region, or meaning beyond the critical value. So it falls before the critical value. That's why we do not reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so meaning we do not reject this one. If we do not reject the null, meaning we are rejecting this one. Okay, so meaning there is no strong evidence that this is true. This statement is true. Letter A. Okay, that option A, transistor A or option A has a significantly higher gain than transistor B or our option B. Okay, that's for the first one. Letter B, we are asked if there is any significant difference. So we are not concerned on whether there is different which one is greater and which one is less. We are just concerned with the difference. So whenever you see this keyword, we can now um uh, we can now write down our null and alternative hypothesis as either equal or unequal. And in most cases, the default is unequal for the alternative because it says any significant difference, meaning if the means of option A and option B has a significant have a significant difference with each other, that means they are not equal. So that's why the mean of option A and the mean of option B are okay. Okay, let's go. The mean of option A and the mean of option B are not equal. Okay, because it says there is any significant difference. On the other hand, when we reverse that, we are saying there is no significant difference between the mean of option A and the mean of option B. Okay, no significant difference. That means we are saying they are equal. Right? And usually we use this whenever we have our uh, two-tailed test. Okay, so this time it's a two-tailed test. So let me draw. Hopefully I can do it right. Okay, assuming. And then still we have the middle value as 0. And then, okay. Right. We have here, it goes on forever. Um, we have the critical value for that we have the same z-score. Okay? Doesn't change whether we are conducting a one-tailed or a two-tailed test. The test statistic is the same. The only thing that differs is the critical value. Okay, now we have a two-tailed test, meaning we have a tail here, okay, a critical region here, and another tail on the right side. So we have another critical region. All right, so we have two critical values, a positive and a negative. Now, for a two-tailed test, at alpha is equals 2.05, or if the alpha is not given, we assume that to be 0.05. So looking at the Z distribution table or using the calculator, Google or AI, or um, manually computing it using calculus, you can derive the critical value as 1.96. Okay? Or in short, if one-tailed, we are doing a one-tailed z-test, by default, that is 1.645. But if we are um, doing a two-tailed z-test, by default, the critical value is 1.96. Okay, so you can just memorize that if you want. Okay, so now we have the 1.96 here. So I'm not going to write anymore. So 1.96 positive, negative 1.96. So that means this entire range is our acceptance region, meaning our statistic should fall within this portion for us to accept our null hypothesis, or for us not to reject our null hypothesis. So now it's 1.55, and again, this is 1.96, negative 1.96, so 1.55 is somewhere here. Okay, so meaning it's within the acceptance region, so we don't reject. Okay, so it's between negative 1.96 and positive 1.96. So meaning it has enough probability to happen. That's why we do not reject it, right? So if we do not reject the null hypothesis, this one, if we do not reject this, that means we reject our alternative. Okay? So just like in the previous one, since we reject our alternative, meaning we are saying there's no significant proof that there is any significant difference in gain between the two options. Or in short, we are saying this is a wrong claim. Okay, we have no proof for this claim. Same thing with the first one. Okay, there's no significant difference between the transistor gains. Right? So that's the second example. I hope you got it. I hope you've learned something. We proceed with the third example. It's right here. Okay. So by the way, you can pause the video if you need time to process the previous examples. Okay. If you're done, okay, let's continue. Example 2.23, the last example for this video. We have a team of engineers optimizing the accuracy of a robotic arm using a machine learning based calibration algorithm. And the team measures the deviation from the target position before and after applying the machine learning optimization on 10 test points. So the results are these values forming our data set. So okay. Remember we have before and after situation. So whenever you see these keywords, that means we are supposed to conduct a paired t-test. Okay? Still assuming the distribution is normal. Right? So now what we have here, we are okay, measures deviation before and after. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, although it's not said directly, we can if there's no sentence that indicates our null and alternative hypothesis, we come up with our default hypothesis. Okay? So default is the mean is greater or equal 0. Oh, so we have the B. Okay, since it's not given, we why not do for both? Okay, for the first one, we are saying the difference is greater or equal to 0, and for the alternative hypothesis, we are saying the mean is less than the mean difference is less than 0. Okay, so um we solve for the test statistic. For the test statistic, we use this formula. This one, sorry. We use this formula, right? And now, as you can see, we have the D bar or the difference mean or the mean difference, and we have the different mean difference, standard deviation difference. Okay, so we have to solve for those two first using this table. Okay, so this is the original table. The first three columns are correspond to the original data set. We now add an fourth column for the difference. So we just take the difference between the two. 2.5 minus 1.8, that's 0.7. Okay, so same thing here, 3.2 minus 2.1, that's 1.1. Up to here, 4.3 minus 3.2, that's 1.1. Okay, and then we take the sum and so that we can compute for the mean. So add them all together, add this the value in this column. and then divide by 10 since we have sample size of 10. Okay, 10 test points. So the sum is 10.2 divided by 10. That is 1.02. Okay, that's our mean difference. And now the standard deviation difference is using this formula. Okay, we just compute, or we just take the difference again between the difference and the mean difference. The difference between the difference and the mean difference. So meaning zero point 0.7 minus um, 1.02. So that would be negative 0.32. Same thing here, the second difference. Subtract that by 1.02. So we have 0.08. Okay, do the same thing until here. 1.8, 1.1 minus 1.02, we have 0.08. Okay, and by the way, you square each one on the last column that we have here. So square each one and take the sum of all the squares. So that's 0.4160 or 0.416. Substitute that to this entire thing. Okay, so we have 0.416 divided by, again, this is a sample, so we are using the n minus 1 formula. So we have 10 test points minus 1, and then compute, that would be 0.215. Okay, now that we have the mean and the standard deviation of the differences, we can now compute for the test statistic of, or the paired t-test statistic. All right, so we have the mean difference 1.02 and the standard deviation difference, that's 0.215, divided by the square root of 10, which is our sample size. Okay, and that would be 15. Right, that's for the test statistic. Now, for a one-tailed t-test at alpha is equals to 0.05, the default, and the degrees of freedom 9, since we have 10 test points minus 1, that will be 9. So the corresponding critical value for that is negative 1.833. So it doesn't matter where did you get this, how did you get this. Again, the three options that I can advise. Number one, use t-distribution table, which is not part of our discussion here. Number two, use your calculator, use Google, ask Google or ask AI. Given the, all you need are the alpha and the degrees of freedom. So once you have these two, you can now compute using your calculator, using Google, or using AI. Okay, so now we compare the test statistic 15 and negative 1.83, negative 1.83. So as you can see, 15 is much, much greater than negative 1.83. So we reject our null hypothesis. Okay, so um, just in case you don't get it, right? Remember, this is our mean. If our mean is at 0, 0 z-score, t-score, and our critical value, okay, it's on the left. Okay, so if this is 0, then negative 1.83 is somewhere here. Okay, so our critical value is here. And our test statistic is on 15. So, okay, somewhere very far. Okay, so all right. Upon checking, it seems there has been an error in the assumption. Um, Let me correct that. Here at this part, we are not just conducting one-tailed test, but specifically one-tailed, right one-tailed test, or in short, right-tailed test. Okay, so um because if we are conducting a left one tail, then the critical value will be negative 1.833. And but if we are conducting a positive one tail t-test, then we are um okay, we should have a positive. Okay, let me correct. Uh-huh. Okay, let's just have a green line. Right. And remove this one. Right. So it should be positive. All right. So that means if this is zero, our critical value is actually just right here and to the right. And this is our test statistic, which is 15. And that means if we have our normal curve to be like this, okay, I can draw. Okay, if this is our normal curve, okay, no, sorry, okay, and this one. So 0, and then we have 1.833. Therefore, the normal curve extends actually forever. Okay. So meaning beyond here, beyond this score up to forever, are all part of the critical region or the rejection region. So that's why we, okay, this is positive again. We reject this null hypothesis since it falls within the rejection region. Okay, so our answer is correct, but I just had the wrong sign here. Okay, so again, it's correct. We reject the null hypothesis. That's why if we reject the null hypothesis, okay, let's go back to the hypothesis. If we reject this, then we accept this one. Therefore, we are saying that the difference is less than zero. Okay, so if the difference is less than zero, then we significantly reduce the deviation. Right? So now you can do the same for a two-tailed test. So this time we have the null hypothesis saying there's no significant difference, meaning the the difference is zero, so it doesn't differ from zero. And then for alternative hypothesis, we are saying that the difference is not equal zero, meaning there is a significant difference. Um, and then, okay, just in case you wonder what difference are we talking about, the difference between our, um, where's the mean? I guess this one. The difference here. So, differences. So the differences, all in all, whether it is significant or not, right? So now for the two-tailed test, we have alpha, a default alpha of 0.05 and the DF of 9. Now we have two tails. Okay, so we have a positive and a negative, what do you call that? Critical values. Okay, so we have this one, the center is 0, and then we have the positive 2.6262 um critical value and the negative 2.262. What happened?